Here I have that tool from Eastwood. It's to remove screws on rotors, whether it's Phillips or Torx or whatever. The thing is, this is a three-piece design, so you got the shank right here, you got this collar, and you have this handle that threads into it. Once you unscrew the handle, the collar automatically becomes loose and you can just remove it. Right out the package, when I saw this design, I mean, something that attaches to an air hammer, I knew this was going to be a problem right here. It's going to start to mess up the threads. It's constantly going to be coming loose. So anyway, I've had it for a few weeks, and yesterday I used it for the first time. And sure enough, after the first time using it, the handle right here came loose. I could already start to see damage on the threads. And I was like, you know what, I'm not going to mess around with this. Eventually it's going to destroy the threads, or I'm going to end up losing the handle because it's going to come loose. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and weld it in. So that's what I did. Put 4 very healthy tacks across the face right here. Sure, I could have just welded it all the way around, but that's not necessary. Then I put a nice good tack right there and one on the bottom, as you can see. This thing sees a lot of force in this direction, not so much like this. So tacking this thing around with some pretty heavy tacks is more than good enough. And like this, with it welded together, it's gonna last a lifetime. None of that three-piece design crap. And the final thing to do, this thing is pretty much cooled down. It's just warm to the touch. So I'll go ahead and apply some CRC to it to protect the areas where I was like cleaning off the metal and removing that finish that's on it. So that should be good enough. So today is a day of cleaning out the garage. I had a ton of boxes right here in this corner, like empty boxes from parts, and I just kept stacking them up. It was like a mountain of boxes. I couldn't even walk in this area, so I'm still in the process of cleaning. But we just finished welding up that bit for the air hammer, and now I want to modify my air jack. The problem is, you see these tabs coming off of here? They are to hold the tool upright, just to kind of give the tool like a smaller footprint. It's not taking up as much space in your garage or whatever. The problem with these is they're very flimsy. This thing is like borderline like ready to like tip over, and if it does fall, it could either damage or break the tool, or even worse, hit someone's car and scratch or dent someone's car, you know, so that's not good. So what I want to do is try to extend these metal tabs, but you can't extend them too far. You can see if you raise up those tabs too high, then it's going to interfere with sliding underneath the car, and these may hit something. So you can only extend them just a hair. But besides extending them, I want to pretty much connect them together. So like a piece of like steel rod like this. And that way, when I go to stand it up, I want it to be a lot more sturdy than this thing right here, because this is useless. So I just measured it up real fast. That's going to be a bend line. That's going to be a bend line. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off right here. I don't need any of this. So I'm just going to use my metal brake that attaches to the press right here. And you can see we're just going to go ahead and put 2 bends in it right where I put the lines. So we'll set that right up and make these bends. There you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and repeat the same process on this side, and we'll see if it fits. I overbent it just a little bit so we could have a tight fit on there. We may have to spread it out a little bit, but let's see how it fits. Overbending the tabs just a hair gave it that good interference fit, so it fits there nice and snug, and I think that's going to look absolutely great. Now, if I were to go ahead and paint this white, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell that this thing was modified. You would think it came like this. The angle of this thing, you could see right here. If we change the angle, it's going to change the angle at which this thing stands upright. So I hope that makes sense. So I want to make sure I get it in the right place before I go ahead and weld it across here. So I'm done with just tacking it up. Just gave it one right there, one on the other side. And yes, I did protect the rubber while I was welding. So it's pretty much solid in place right now. Let's see if it's in the right spot. If I have to, I'll just cut the tacks and move it. But I could already tell you that's already a big improvement. Is it 100% solid? No. And it's never going to be. But that right there is a big improvement. You can see we could even just kind of let it loose and it still won't fall on its own. So having that extra contact on the floor and even extending it out probably like a 1/4 inch right here makes a big difference. It's looking good to me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and completely burn it in. If we look at the side profile right here, let me get a piece of cardboard. You can see it does not go higher than the actual jack itself, so it's not going to interfere with sliding it underneath any cars. Well, because I know somebody's gonna complain or leave a comment, I decided to paint it. So right now I got like 2 coats of self-etching primer on it. Guys, we're going with the red. Yep, because I don't got a white, I don't got anything to match it, so we might as well just go all out, right? Safety, you know, that's exactly what it is. Safety in mind. That thing has to be painted red. Trip hazard. It's a trip hazard. It has to be red. There we go. It's all painted up. Just letting it cure now. I forgot to show you guys the weld, so you can see it right there. It just came in hot and heavy. Just a big old bead all the way across it. Did the same exact thing on this side, so there's no need to weld this up anymore. This little bar, that's the only job it has, and it's not gonna take a lot of stress. These welds will hold up forever. And there we go. Paint's all dry. It's good to go. Stand it up. Just kind of let it go. Just holds all by itself now. Now I don't have to worry about it falling. Looks good to me. I'm happy with it. Hyundai Elantra here. Came over because it needs an oil change. Which is love when they drop it off, or it just needs this one little thing. And then while they're here, oh, can you change the light bulb? Oh, can you put windshield wipers on it? It's like, what the hell? I squeezed you in because you said it was one little thing, you know? It just sucks. Anyway, whatever. But this Elantra, maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it wouldn't start. Okay, it was parked up front over here, not too far from my house. The car wouldn't start, and so I went out there to go help him, right? And before I even pulled out the scanner or anything, I start checking the car, see what's going on with it. So it was a crank no start. First thing I did was I pulled out the test light and I checked for spark. We had spark. Checked for injector pulse. We had injector pulse. Just to verify we were getting fuel, I sprayed some starting fluid directly into the throttle body while the owner was cranking. It's still nothing. So at that point, okay, you know what, let me go get my scanner. It had one code for a camshaft sensor or something. I can't remember what the exact code was, but it was related to the camshaft sensor, at least one of them. So I told him, hey, I could look at it, but not anytime soon. It might be a few days because I'm really busy. I'm backed up right now. So, you know, he's impatient like everyone else. They want their car fixed, you know, right now. It's my money and I want it now. He tows it to a local shop over here. Now, I'm not familiar with the shops over here because I just don't deal with them, and I don't care for any of them. I've seen the work that comes out of some of these shops, you know what I mean? So he's like, oh, I had it towed to so-and-so, and I'm like, I don't know where that's at, but okay. So after a week, he still hasn't gotten the car back. So what's going on with your car? I thought you took it to a shop because they could get it done before me. He's like, man, I called after like 2 days and they said the timing was out on the engine. They kept looking at it. He said he called them like 2 days after that. Then they told him the engine was bad. And he's like, what? So then one of the employees at that shop recommended that he takes it to the dealer. And he said at that point, he was like, you know what, I just want a second opinion. And if you're a mechanic shop and you're telling me to take it to the dealer, that's kind of like a red flag. So he had the car towed out of there. He had it towed to the dealer. And then, by the way, I asked him, what place did you go to? He goes, you know that place across the street from so-and-so? I'm like, no, don't tell me you took your car there. And the reason why I say this is because every time I drive past that shop, all they do is engine swaps. All day, every day. They have like 4 or 5 engines sitting in the front of their shop. You could see it from the main street, and all they do is swap engines. So when they told him, oh, your car needs an engine, I was like, oh, of course they told you that. Either a shop that's really known for their great engine swaps, which I highly doubt it, or the more likely scenario is that shop does not know how to diagnose anything, and what they do is they just throw engine in everyone's car. They can't figure it out. Oh, it needs an engine. It needs an engine. You know why? Because if they could put an engine in your car for, you know, 3 or 4 hours of labor, whatever the heck it is, and they could charge you $2 grand, it benefits them more for 3 or 4 hours worth of work rather than spending 6 hours trying to diagnose a car that, oh, it turns out you just had a broken wire going to the cam sensor. You know what I mean? I'm not even exaggerating. They always got engines in front of their shop. That is a horrible shop, okay? They don't know how to diagnose anything. All they do is put an engine. Any little problem, they can't figure it out. They put an engine in your car. It's freaking crazy. So anyway, enough ranting about that shop. He had it towed to the dealer, right? And guess what? The dealer calls him like after 3 days and they say, oh, your car needs a tune-up. And keep in mind, I recently did a tune-up on this not too long ago. They told him, oh, your car is also due for a transmission fluid change. I recently changed the transmission fluid. In fact, this is the Hyundai that had that hard shifting issue. And we had to go in there and put in a temperature sensor inside the transmission, and it got new fluid too. So keep in mind, this item, it needs a tune-up. Done. They told him it needs transmission fluid. That was already done. They told him it also needs a PCV valve. I also put that on too. Direct parts all from the dealer, OEM parts. So he's already like, something's going on here, something sketchy, because the car's a crank no start, and they're not even bringing up the fact that the car won't start. And he's like, okay, well, I'm not going to pay for any of that stuff because my mechanic already did all that stuff. And they're like, okay, well, then here's a fee for, looking at your car. They did some recalls on this car, some recalls. They went ahead and knocked that out for him. But they say you could come pick up your car, so he thought it was weird. He goes to pick up the car. He gets in the car, and guess what? It starts right up. He drives home. He looked at the paperwork that the dealer gave him, and there's no work at all of them doing any type of work that would fix a crank no start. I guarantee you, by the time I got to the dealer, this intermittent problem that he's having was gone. They never even experienced the car not starting. So it's a intermittent no crank. And guess what? That first shop that he was at, that they told him his engine was bad, he needs a new engine, they charged him money. The dealer charged him money. At this point, he's about $500 in, and the car's right back at square one. Not a single thing was done to it regarding this random crank no start, yet he's out $500. I told him to wait. I could look at it. I'll get to it when I can. No, being impatient, it was gone for like a week and a half, something like that, right? He didn't have the car. He has another car he was getting around in. You know what I'm saying? He's saying he couldn't wait for me, yet people find ways. Even though the other two shops had your car, you still found a way to get around with your other car. Yet you couldn't wait on me? It makes no sense. So I was talking to him when he dropped off the car. I told him this must be a magical car. He's like, why? I told him because you paid $500 and no one did anything to this car regarding your issue, and yet the car fixed itself. It must be magical. He didn't really like that. So but he's like, well, if you would have just taken the car in that day, it wouldn't start. That $500 could have went to you. And I told him, no, not really, because in my experience, when I even tell someone, oh, your bill will be $100, they heart attack, right? But they'll turn around and give a shop $1,000 to do stupid petty shit the car didn't even need. That's just how it is around here. This problem is not going to go away. Problems don't fix themselves. It's going to show its face again. And the thing is, this car pretty much sat all winter for a few months. This is the first time, well, that day wouldn't start was the first time he was trying to start it after months. I told him, you probably have rodent damage. There was probably mice or a squirrel or something chewing on the cam sensor wire. Who knows, But $500. Nothing was done to the car, and here we are. Doing the brakes on this Grand Cherokee. It's like a 2017. It's getting pads and rotors all the way around. But yesterday I got an email from Snap-on saying your order shipped. And I'm like, what? I forgot all about that. So I ordered a tool like 4 or 5 months ago, but since it was like on back order or whatever. So I got the email yesterday saying that it shipped. And then the part actually showed up today. So here it is. It's the Subaru brake caliper socket, specifically made for that, but it's a 17 mil on this side, so there's other cars you could use it for, but I just thought it was super neat and it'll come in hand someday. 2007 Chrysler Sebring here. It's here for rear brakes because they are grinding. You can see that rear pad right there. There's absolutely no friction material left, and this thing is a legit certified 100% piece of shit. Took it out for a test drive. I mean, brakes are grinding, sounds like a wheel bearing up front, suspension's all clunking around. It's just car's a piece of junk, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and knock out these rear brakes today. Here we go, just about done on this side. New rotor, new pads, new hardware kit. Don't worry, I did not forget that little plug. There simply just wasn't one on the old one, so there's no plug to put there. Going out for a test drive in the Sebring after doing the brakes. The brakes feel good, no noise or anything coming from the back, or at least as far as the brakes go. We got more purple fuzzies going to the car wash, yeah. Anyway, let's see if you guys could hear this freaking roaring wheel bearing. Yeah, it sounds pretty bad, and we're not even going that fast, maybe like 15, 20. And there's a bunch of clunking noise coming from up front. I guarantee you all this front suspension just shot. This thing has almost 145,000 on it. I bet you it's still riding on all original parts. Anyway, you can see the check engine lights on. So let's go back to the garage and get the codes for the owner, and that's it for this one. So the only two codes on this car are catalyst efficiency, which actually I'm pretty surprised because I expected there to be a lot more codes on this piece of crap. But that's it. That's all we have here. Crank sensor on this Altima. This is the first time I ever found a complete donut in a car. Oh wait, I was supposed to do it the other way. Mother hand. That's funny. Mercedes, it's here for brakes. So it's getting pads and rotors all the way around. Just taking it out for a quick test drive before I start on the brakes. You could probably hear that the rear brakes are grinding metal on metal. So there we go. New pads, new rotor. Just gonna go ahead and repeat this process on all of the wheels, and this one will be all set. So the owner of this car, I actually know him, and I told him, why'd you buy this? And he was like, it was either buy this or a piece of crap. I told him, this is a piece of crap. I'm taking this Mercedes for a test drive after doing all the brakes. Everything feels good, everything sounds good, no more grinding noise. What's super annoying is every time I get in someone's car and there's empty bottles rolling around inside. Let's see, what do we have here? We got some Corona, and they're empty Corona bottles. We got some Seagrams right there. You know, it's crazy. You know, everyone knows drinking and driving is illegal, and I know. You know, I've been there. I've done that. You know, not proud of it, but I was young and dumb at one point. The owner of this car is probably like 22 right now. But still, it's like I had enough common sense that even if I was doing that when I was younger, I would get rid of the bottles. Don't leave the evidence in there in case you ever do get pulled over in the future. You have empty bottles of booze, and that's never a good sign to a cop. Anyway, probably just gonna go park the car, and I'll probably just toss those bottles out for him and do him a favor. He doesn't know I'm doing him a favor, but I am. They're empty bottles. There's no reason why they should be in the car. Got this Chevy Colorado here in the garage. It's here for a water pump. The owner was here a few days ago, and he said the lower radiator hose is leaking, so we went ahead and changed it, and it was leaking from there, so we went ahead and changed it, but filled it up with coolant. He drove away. You know, a day or two later, he says it's still losing coolant, and he says it's the water pump. And I told him, yeah, that's the first thing I told you, because when initially that first time he came over, I looked at the car. As soon as I popped the hood, I was like, your water pump looks like it's leaking. And he's like, no, it's the radiator hose, it's the hose. I'm like, all right, well, whatever you say. So sure enough, 2 days later, oh yeah, it is the water pump. So anyways, all I did was take off the belt, and as soon as you relieve the tension of the belt, this thing just started puking its guts out. Look how loose this water pump is. So go ahead and get this out of here. Pop a new one on. I am master of my domain. It goes anywhere I want it to go. I have years of experience with this, trust me. So I'm pretty much done with this water pump. I'm about to start filling up the system and bleed it out. Now what I normally use for water pumps is this Permatech stuff. It's for water pumps and thermostat, and I've had a lot of success with this. Works great. But this time the owner supplied this. I found it inside the box, so I figure, why not? I'll use it, and that way I don't have to waste the stuff I have here. And please, baby Jesus, do not let me regret using this. Please don't get a leak, because if this crap leaks, I'm gonna be upset. And I knew I should have just used what is tried and true and works. So don't fail me. You guys are never gonna guess what car is back here. Dun, 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 the hacked Impala. Well, I know what's wrong with this car already. It's the steering wheel cover. And of course, oh, the door's open. It's been here for like 3 days. Alright. Let's see what happens when we turn the key, because this is where all the problems lie. Absolutely nothing. Okay, so let me key won't come out. Great. So let me tell you what's going on here. The car turned into a, I think it was a no crank situation. So I told to get the car towed over here. I suspect maybe just a bad starter. I have not changed the starter on this vehicle, and I told her just get it towed over here. So apparently her boyfriend tried to jump it, but they told me that when they were trying to jump it, they saw sparks and then smoke. That's never a good sign, right? I'm assuming the battery is disconnected. That's why we have absolutely nothing. Okay, so the battery is not disconnected, yet we have absolutely no power here. Stupid shit. I don't know if this was like this the last time the car was here. Maybe I missed it. But this relay sits right here, and I noticed a copper strand coming from this fuse to one of the legs on this relay. Look what they got going on here. So clearly the fuse has to be blown out. That's why someone did this. And then they decided to get power from this relay. Just stupid shit. It just freaking pisses me off. Who does that? Looking at the diagram right here, that is a fuel pump relay and a fuel pump fuse. Why did the fuse for the fuel pump blow? But we gotta, before we do any of this stuff, we gotta figure out why there's no power. Okay, I see why we have no battery power. It's because we have 1.8 volts. This battery is completely dead. Alright, so I got my jump starter on it. First thing I noticed is the headlights turned on all by themselves. Maybe that's what killed the battery in the first place. I know it's not going to start because we don't have a fuse in it yet for, how do you turn these lights off? Okay, we don't have a fuse in it for that fuel pump. See if it even cranks. Good, okay, so it does crank. Let's get a new fuse. Put a new 15 amp fuse in there. Let's try to crank it again, see what happens. Come on. Damn you. My jump starter is garbage. If the battery isn't over like 11 or like 10 volts or something like that, it won't do anything. So on a battery that has 1 or 2 volts on it, I knew this jump starter wouldn't do anything. Look at this garbage. 1 out of the 5 indicator lights for the battery charge. This thing has been plugged in forever. I just unplugged it right now. Freaking garbage. I had no choice but to bring the battery into the garage and put it on a trickle charger. So we are starting off at almost 4 volts. So I'm just gonna let it sit here overnight. This thing only charges at like, what is it? 1.5 amps, so it's very slow, and I think that's exactly what this battery needs, and we'll come back to it tomorrow. It's now next day. I just disconnected the battery off of the trickle charger. You can see we are at 13 volts, so let's go ahead and pop this battery back on the Impala. Alright, so I got the battery in place. The 2 terminals are tightened down. Let's go ahead and see if it'll crank over. Alright, so let's try it. Don't forget we did put a new fuse in for the fuel pump. Started right up. What's the issue here? I think she has a bad starter, and that's it. It was just intermittently acting up on her. Why did the fuse for the fuel pump blow? Let's go ahead and pull out the scope. Let's check the fuel pump, see if there's anything funky we see. If the fuel pump looks good, then I'm just gonna have to go ahead and call a starter, because based off of what they were telling me over the phone, that's just what it sounds like. They really aren't giving me much information to go off of. Alright, so I did a relative compression test just so we could look at the starter motor, and I don't see anything that jumps out at me. Everything looks pretty normal here, at least to my knowledge. And I also took a waveform from the fuel pump, and again, I didn't see anything crazy that just jumps out at me. It's hard to tell what's going on here. And by the way, I have not been able to replicate the issue. The car starts up every single time ever since we charged the battery. It's possible that what was going on with this fuse and the relay being tied together had nothing to do with what was going on right now. Honestly, it could have been from when I first got the car a while back, and so many things were hacked on this car. Honestly, I won't be surprised if it was like that and I just never caught it. So let's just leave that alone for now. I don't think the girl's boyfriend went ahead and did this, because let's just be realistic. If he possibly did not know how to jump start a car and put the battery cables on the wrong way, what makes you think he's got the knowledge or the know-how to, you know, put a copper wire on a fuse like that and then jump it over to a power feed on a relay? That's just my theory. So let's just put that aside, and I'm just gonna assume it's been like that forever and I just never caught it. Let's not forget to check the alternator. So as you can see, I got it connected to the battery and we are charging. It's been a while since we last saw this car. Last thing I did on it was fix that power steering leak, and it's been a few weeks. So let's go ahead and check it now that we just got it turned on. Look at that, power steering works. Yep. So that repair I did on fixing that leaking hose was the actual problem with this car, and it's nice to see that the power steering is still working. Some of you eagle-eye viewers may notice that she now has a good windshield, so she got that replaced, as well as this glass right here. It's coming on up. Fish don't burn in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. I'm not gonna lie, this thing is extremely comfortable. It's like you just want to keep playing with it while you're driving, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure this is what's causing all the cars to fail that come into this garage. These things must have like bad juju on them or something. I don't freaking know. Let's go ahead, turn it off, and try another startup. For some reason it doesn't want to let go of the key. Pretty sure I got it in park. That's weird. Anyway, let's try starting it up. Yep, no problems. Stupid shit like this. Okay, so like I just said, I couldn't get the key out right, so I figured it had something to do with this thing. So I go ahead, pull the sleeve off. As soon as the sleeve came off, the button right here, which is the trigger, was able to release. I heard this thing click, and now the key comes out. So this stupid cover is preventing this thing from doing what it has to do when you put it in park and releasing the key. Why do people put up with this? I don't understand it. I really don't. So apparently this fuzzy stuff, the owner put it on about a day before she started having these car issues. And what I just showed you guys is that by taking this fuzzy thing off of the shifter, it actually released the key. So essentially it was pressing down on that button. It's a button that has power going to it. So what do you think this thing was doing the whole time that sleeve was over the shifter? Oh, I don't know, drain the battery? So I told the owner my suspicion on what's going on here. I told her to not put that thing back on the car and see what happens. It's been over a month. She said the car is still running great. That issue with the battery has not happened again. It was this fuzzy thing causing the issue all along. How stupid is that? Anyway, that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.